is the former Director General of the École. So if I could hand over to you, Chris, and your two panelists, that would be great. Thank you.
That's very kind, Karen. Thank you very much. And well done, Stephen. That was a great presentation. Welcome, Donald and Ruud. Just to give some background, Donald is chair of the Oxford Cultural Collective now, was head of school at Oxford Brookes Hospitality School from 2003 to 2017. And the school was actually recognised as one of the top 3 in the world in 2016 at the Worldwide Hospitality Awards. Ruud was formerly Dean at the Hague Hotelschool and former Director General at Lausanne Hotelschool as well. So I think it's fair to say we've got 2 of the top educationists in the world to give their views on how they see the landscape today. So leading into that, Donald, shall I start with you?
You could do.
You are obviously a real advocate for more progressive thinking in education. Do you want to explain your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it was interesting listening to Stephen sort of reinforcing what we all know about the labour challenges facing the industry, not only in the UK, but internationally, and the creative approaches that Hilton and others are taking to try and solve that problem. And I worry, actually, just to start with the negative, and we won't dwell on negatives for very long, but I do worry that because of some critical challenges facing higher education in the UK, specifically in the realm of hospitality, that hospitality schools are less well placed than was once the case to contribute to solving these labour challenges that Stephen very eloquently outlined. So, for example, student numbers and applications to higher education institutions in our field have been declining year on year for a number of years. There are, it's unstable, but the general trend is not positive. There's been significant disinvestment in specialist facilities. We've seen that at a number of institutions. I may get myself in trouble, but I feel sometimes that academic research is a preoccupation within institutions, and maybe it's not delivering impact or a perception of relevance in the way in which it should. Student debt is climbing. It's not unusual for young people to leave British universities with 50,000, 60,000 pounds worth of debt, and that's putting a great deal more scrutiny on, quite rightly, on the nature of the experience they're having and the perceived value of the experience they're having. And industry partnerships potentially lack sort of depth and focus. And the final thing I would say in terms of challenges before we get onto the positives is that universities are overrun with bureaucracy. And I do have a genuine concern for those good people working in hospitality institutes whose creativity and their space to focus on the student experience is limited because it's process-driven education in a way that isn't terribly helpful. So I do think, to go back to your question, that it's time for a system that is free from these constraints, that is more creative, is more innovative, is more focused on the students. And, and I've got the scars on my back to sort of back this up, if you like, but if something isn't working, then for how long do you keep trying to change it from within? And maybe we have now reached a point where it's time to envisage a new, more progressive system, as you say. And one final thing I would say, Chris, Stephen also outlined the scale of this problem. I'm not suggesting that the creation of a new institute, for example, would solve, in terms of the number of graduates, the problems that the industry is facing when it's looking for potential management and leadership employees. But what it can do is have a disproportionate effect on the perceived status of careers in our field and on the popularity of that as a career option for very talented young people. So I'll let Ruud have a...
We'll come back onto that in a second.
Exactly, yeah.
Your thoughts on this? Because you've always been, you see it from a global perspective. Is this a global issue, or is it more of a UK issue, that what Don was talking about? Because you've always been a great believer that the UK's had a great system, and perhaps it's declined over the years.
Yeah, I'll come back to that in a minute, Chris. I think it's a global issue. In fact, just to reiterate what Don is saying, essentially it's not so difficult. It is connecting the dots. It is connecting between what the industry needs, maybe not what they want, but what they need, and what students want in terms of what they have in ambition, experience, motivation for the industry. And hotel education, hospitality education is just between there to connect these dots. But the interference is there, what already explained by Don, and it's the academic interference. This is about systems, it's about leadership, what he explained. That's about culture, so irrelevant, not always relevant research, rigor more than relevance. And there you hit the nail, because you know, I'm a bit older than many of you, but I remember in the 80s, the best hospitality schools in the world were in the UK. That is maybe a surprise to you, but these were absolutely fantastic in terms of connect with the industry. Even their research was very much applied. Schools like Huddersfield, Sheffield, Brighton, Bournemouth, Manchester, they were all great. They were really in the top of the hospitality schools in the world. And in a way, it's sad to say you lost that in fact over the years, because I believe you became too much, let me call it, embraced by the university culture, academic culture, and that faculty was driven more in the academics than be connected with the industry. But the moment you are able to repair that relationship with the industry and see it as true partnership instead of just a pipeline, then I think there are many opportunities to make it better. But that means, in fact, fundamentally, you can only change if you are able to disconnect yourself from the, let me now say, rigid academic system you have. And that is in the world, but that's also very much, I think, what I've seen applicable to the UK.
Okay, so we've got a structural problem and the focus isn't all right. Yeah. Donald, how would you like to see change take place now?
Well, I think just to reiterate, the first point is, do we change from within or do we do something different? And a few years ago, when I was still in the HE system, I would have gone for the former and said, no, we've got to sort of advocate for change from within. But I actually now have reached the view that that probably isn't possible, and we need to focus on the creation of a system that is focused on hospitality and not distracted. So I would be looking for a system, to talk about the structural change that's required that you refer to, that has a different and more distinctive educational philosophy that's more appropriate to our domain. And within that, I would say education that is immersive, that is experiential, that, as Ruud says, is in absolute lockstep with industry, co-created with industry and co-delivered by industry, which we've lost sight of, unfortunately. And that doesn't mean sort of just viewing it as churning out warm bodies for industry. It means working with employers who are themselves progressive, who understand, as Stephen was saying earlier, what it is that young people are looking for now, and provide environments within which they're able to flourish. So education that is focused on the development of the attributes of students and graduates in ways that really equip them for success. But more than that, I'd say there are other things structurally that need to change. And again, they've been referred to already this morning, which is encouraging. One is to consider the broader role of education. Should education, for example, be an advocate for a more progressive change in industry and in society? And I think this is crucial. So education should have a central role to play in advocating for change on matters relating to environmental degradation, climate change, social justice, systemic racism, areas where our industry needs to be focused on change for the future. You know, we're trying to appeal to young, ideologically minded people who have these issues at the forefront of their mind. And if education isn't providing an environment within which they can see their institution is leading these conversations, then quite frankly, we're going to continue to be viewed as irrelevant. And I think the other area that is important, which again has been touched on, is around diversity and inclusion. And there's two sides to this, I guess. One is, again, are we seeking to lead change? Are we, as educational specialists, saying, quite frankly, despite being one of the most diverse sectors internationally, that diversity is not reflected in senior management positions? Should we be working with industry to provide a talent pool that is more reflective of the diverse society in which we live? In order to do that successfully, we need to celebrate and promote diversity as one of the most powerful and most appealing aspects of our sector. And to do that, we need to create educational environments that are focused on community, that are actively seeking to create culturally diverse, and I don't mean simply international, I mean culturally diverse, attracted from within any one country, communities that are inclusive and supportive and that allow people to flourish, allow members of that community to flourish, not only students, but staff and alumni and all those connected with any new, more progressive institute. And one other observation about higher education as it stands is that it tends to be quite monocultural in its perspective. So universities are great at saying, the most successful ones are great at saying, we welcome students from 50, 60, 70 different countries. We have a wonderfully diverse environment. But then the curriculum that they offer is often quite monocultural and from a particular British or American or Western perspective. And quite frankly, if I was a young person from another part of the world, I would question whether that educational experience was entirely appropriate for me. So root and branch, the nature of the educational experience needs to face up to the issues around social change and diversity and inclusion.
Great, thanks, Don. Ruud, I'm conscious of our time, but one of the things I just want to touch on is hospitality schools often get criticised for the number of people who start the course and then go into other industries. So I think the average conversion rate, please correct me where I'm wrong, is about 27% of people who carry on in hospitality. But is that really an issue? Is that really a problem?
Well, what is hospitality? Is hospitality the prerogative of hotels and restaurants, or are hospitality competences needed, required, rewarded in other business sectors as well, like retail, healthcare, airlines, banking, whatever? And I know, yes, that in the past in particular, I was criticized as well that only 50%, 40% of our alumni or our graduates went into the real hotel business. But when I discussed with them, yeah, you don't own hospitality, it is really something that students can use in any kind of other industries, then we say, okay, that's fine. So I don't believe that's a real issue. It's also, it makes competition healthier. To be very honest with you, I saw recently a CEO from a healthcare organization in Germany moving back as a CEO for a hotel company. So there are also opportunities, I think, to really then attract people that are working in other sectors and bring them back into the industry. So I don't consider that as a big issue. That's just a fact. Hospitality is not the industry. Hospitality is a function, is a competence, is a lifestyle, is maybe even a new technology which you can use in any kind of other business sectors.
And do you agree with Donald's point that the narrative needs to change now?
Yeah, of course, the narrative needs to change. But also, again, what I would like to reiterate is what Don was saying, that true change into hospitality education comes through true and sincere and reliable partnership with the industry. And if then the industry is defined as hotels and restaurants, or we make that wider and include their many more aspects, that I'm fine with, but it starts there. And it also means that this type of partnership is not just sufficient by saying, okay, we have an advisory board that once in a year gathers and get information, and then a nice glass of champagne and a meal, and then it's over. No, it means industry involved in curriculum development, industry involved in curriculum delivery. Why can't they teach? Why can't they help us or schools in providing real content that is relevant for the industry? So it starts there, and then how we contextualize, in fact, hospitality, that is for debate. But that is, I don't believe that it is the main issue.
And Donald, I'm conscious that we're coming to the close of final comments. I mean, the real opportunity here is about hospitality has a real social role to play, and actually by creating a better social dialogue, hospitality can make a leap forward, can't it?
Yeah, I mean, I reiterating what I said before, I think if you begin to take a broader view of what education is then and focus on the potential social impact, that will appeal to young people. And it's also our responsibility to address these issues as well. So I would say without a doubt, picking up on something Ruud said there, I think also we need a more nuanced conversation nationally and internationally about the appeal of hospitality careers and the opportunities that exist. You know, there is one very positive thing about our sector is that it's got possibilities for people to enter at all levels, as we continuously say, and it's a very open industry. But I think we also need to start promoting the fact that it's an industry for people with high potential, people with aspirations to build exciting management and leadership careers, or go in creative directions, whether it's design or the media or marketing or whatever else it might be. And don't just, in a sense, we put ourselves down. When we continuously say it's for everyone, roll up, do what you want, come and join us, I'm not sure that will solve the problem, both as in education and in the sector. We need to be more nuanced and more honest about the exciting opportunities that exist. We're not always great at that, I don't think.
No, I agree. Ruud, final comments on this?
No, I just wanted to highlight, and you were there as well, and Don as well, the fabulous discussion we had last week with a group of a young generation of what we call hospitality leaders, and the input they gave and the responsibility they wanted to have to make education better and to make education more relevant, and the commitment they gave to us in terms of let's do it. That is just fantastic. So I believe there are absolutely no only reasons to change, but there are also immense opportunities, in particular for the younger generation, to make that change happen and to make the influence of industry into what kind of programs are we going to deliver, what type of students are we going to attract, how do we motivate these people, how do we source these people. That is absolutely possible. I see no reasons to believe that that is impossible. I think even it is, and it's timing as well. That's the right time to do it.
Absolutely.
May I thank you both. This is an important discussion, which I'm sure is going to be a debate that carries on for longer and longer. But thank you both for your time today.